I would like to call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. For the audience here tonight, the City of Glendora utilizes a hybrid meeting format to allow for participation both in person and virtually. In consideration of others in the business conducted tonight, please silence your phones and any electronic devices and refrain from speaking unless recognized. Again, this is a public meeting for the community of Glendora. We appreciate and respect your participation here this evening. Madam Clerk, will you please conduct roll call?
Thank you, President. At this time, I will conduct an oral roll call and request that each trustee respond with present when their name is called. Trustee Flowers?
Present.
Trustee Tolan?
Present.
Trustee Chu? Vice President Johnson?
Present.
President Landman?
Present.
Let the record show all members, our trustees are attending with the absence of Trustee Chu.
Thank you. Could the deputy clerk please read the closed session title into the record?
Yes. A closed session for agenda item 1, public employee performance evaluation. A closed session will be held pursuant to Government Code 54957 to discuss evaluation of the position of library director, consultation with city manager.
If there are, I was just, let me see, sorry. If you're in attendance and you would like to make a comment regarding public comment for the closed session item, please fill out a speaker card and submit it to the recording admin before the close of the public comment period. Once recognized, speakers should advance to the podium, state your name and subject matter that you would like to discuss. If you are participating via Zoom, select the raise hand icon in Zoom before the close of the public comment period. Once recognized, you will be unmuted, state your name and the subject matter you wish to discuss. Do we have any public comment?
We do not, President.
Any on Zoom?
We do not.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to close the public comment period, recess the meeting into closed session
At what time? At 7:03.
at 7:03. I would like to adjourn the closed session at 8:08 PM and reconvene the open session at 8:08 PM should be. Okay. Let me see. Deputy Clerk, did you want to report
I
out?
would.
Okay,
Yes, I
from
would.
closed session, sorry.
Actually, because I'm not sure. Hold on 1 second. No, you should. A privilege and confidential briefing was discussed with the Board of Trustees in regards to the closed session item, and there was no reportable action.
Thank you. We're going to be doing the Pledge of Allegiance. Maggie, would you be interested in leading us for the pledge? Okay.
Everyone's hands over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to reorder or add to the agenda? I would like to request a reordering of the agenda to move number 5, recognition of National Friends of Libraries Week. To the, I don't know. Move it to the front after public comment.
Okay, so after public comment, we will move agenda item number 5, recognition of National Friends of the Library Week. Prior to the strategic framework review and strategic response update for September 2023. That is agenda item number 4. Do we have a motion?
Moved.
I have a motion from trustee Flowers
I'll second.
and a second by trustee Tolan.
Okay. Thank you. I would like to open public comment period. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the library board? Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once on both on and off agenda topics. Thank you. We have one speaker. How exciting. Okay, I'd like to call Maggie Laura up, please.
Beginning in 1964 with a small group of volunteers, a band of book lovers who called themselves the Friends of the Library held annual book sales to support their favorite cause and ours, Glendora Public Library. The Friends of the Library began with a love of community and a passion for books, wanting to inspire and explore the world of imagination and information available at their beloved Glendora Library. Since those early days, the Friends of the Library has evolved into the Glendora Public Library Friends Foundation, which this year has committed $171,000 in support of library programs and services. My name is Maggie Lahr, and I'm the foundation's executive director, and I have the privilege of working with a team of volunteers led by Foundation President Kathy Boyer, who donate their time, talent, and treasure in support of the library. In celebration of Friends of the Library Week, I'm here to honor them and all of our foundation volunteers for their tireless efforts in support of the library. We also want to thank our donors, who are our friends, neighbors, and local businesses and community partners who support the library. Through the years, Friends funding has helped pioneer many new library services. It's hard to believe that we helped pioneer the computer center, the adult literacy program. We help support outreach and cultural programs, the Summer Reading Challenge, digital online streaming services, and the most recent library app. And we look with great anticipation of the next season of new beginnings and new adventures. We thank you for this opportunity to celebrate Friends of the Library Week, but more importantly, celebrating and acknowledging the gift that the library is to the community and the many foundation volunteers and donors who continue the good work that started off with our earliest friends. So we really thank you for celebrating us this week.
Thank you, Maggie. Are there any other members of the audience interested in making comment, or any of the Zoom attendees? Are there any hands raised?
There are not, President.
Right, I would like to close public comment period. Does any trustee have any reports or announcements?
I'd like to just say how continuously astonished I am by the work of the Friends. We've been at multiple events throughout the year. We've seen the good work that goes on. Nothing is not perfect. Like, so many things go into these huge events that you put on. There's so many different tiers and levels, and it's all so well considered how you can create an amazing, memorable event that people want to return to every year, and then raise those funds to support the library. So it's just incredible work, and I'm a little sad I can only be a part of the committee for one more year. But it's really an honor to be included and see what you do. So thank you.
Would anybody else like to make a comment or report? And I just wanted to add, I had the privilege of attending the last Friends event, kind of extending the Mamma Mia theme. That was beautiful, and it was absolutely perfect. And I want to thank you so much for doing that. Okay, so then the next topic would it be the special item? Okay.
It will be the report of the
Okay.
library director, and then we will move on to item number 5.
Got it. Okay. All right. So the report of Director Stone and the library divisions.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. As usual, there is a written report from me and the library divisions in the packet, which is available to the public on the website. And rather than go over that in detail, I will just offer a few updates to that and additions to that. First of all, I did want to talk about the delivery of the mobile shelving. I believe we talked last time about the idea that we might close to be able to have that assembled and set up. And we are at this point still awaiting confirmation of its delivery date. And it's possible, this is a tentative thing, that we may close on November 2nd if we get confirmation of the delivery and assembly, and in time for us to announce by this Wednesday. But we won't know for sure until Wednesday arrives whether we have that information. And if we don't have those details yet, we will simply choose another date and regroup. So my advice to the public is just to keep an eye on our website, where as soon as we know, we will be putting the information about any closures. And the idea behind closing is that we can limit all the hubbub to a single day and be ready to move forward almost immediately. Also, I wanted to share that we got just 5 days ago a heads up from our Southern California Library Cooperative staff. And this has also been in the library news, but they did a nice little write-up about it that I will read. This is from, like I mentioned, SCLC. I wanted to let you know that Governor Newsom has signed SB 321 by Senator Ashby into law. This bill establishes the local public library partnership program effective January 1st, 2024, which requires the state librarian to coordinate with each local public library to ensure each student is issued a student success card by 3rd grade. This program will be administered by the state librarian and will require partnerships between local public libraries and local educational agencies. Again, that just came out 5 days ago. We will be obviously touching base with the local schools, school districts, the state librarian who's going to be administering the project. But because that was signed into law and would be making the news, I just wanted to mention that we will be working on it, and it's just early days yet. So that's kind of exciting. And then I also wanted to, mostly for the public's sake, just to confirm some information we got about the building process. We've been reporting for many months now that we were undergoing a structural assessment, and that in May, the city council approved the application for a grant that could go toward a total $8 million project to do some various structural, waterproofing, and mechanical, electrical, and plumbing maintenance to the library. And I just wanted to report out that as of last week, those grant awards were announced. And per the press release, and I'll just quote, it says 34 awards were in this round, 85% improved facilities in communities experiencing poverty rates ranging from 20% to 52.3%. Glendora, whose poverty rate is 12.35%, did not receive any funds. So that grant that the city council approved for application back in May, we just got news that we did not receive those funds. Even had we gotten those funds, we knew the conversation was not over, and just that the scope and the means of whatever is going to be happening with the library building just undergoes a new phase of discussion now. But for those who'd been following along at home about that, I just wanted to make sure we mentioned that they had announced that through press releases and on the grant website. So those are my only updates to the written report. I am happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next topic would be the recognition of National Friends of Libraries Week. I'd like to invite Director Janet Stone to present.
Thank you. So, Maggie, it's a delight to have you here this evening. It's an odd response to public comment when I wanted to start a round of applause. So, thank you so much for your comments, and of course, for all of the service and support that they represent. I wanted to share a couple of things in honor of National Friends of Libraries Week. And by the way, we are expecting there to be an agendized proclamation at City Council next week, also in honor of this. The first thing I want to do is we have our usual statistical summary in the packet, and I sort of didn't comment on it before because I wanted to pull out a few things in relation to the Glendora Public Library Friends Foundation about this. First of all, there are several things in our statistical summary that are very closely tied to the presence, the existence of the Friends Foundation. For example, we have our library app, and over the last 12-month period, there have been almost 35,000 views of that app, and that is a program and a service that are supported by the Friends Foundation. Also, our electronic circulation, there were almost 42,000 counts of that over the last 12 months. And And the event attendance, and this is the events, the programs of the library, the chances for the public to come together and to discuss and experience the world of ideas together and learn and to go, their own development and to build the world of ideas. Really, that entire sort of line item in our total budget, that is exclusively provided by the Friends Foundation. And there were about over 20,000 in attendance on-site and off-site at our program. So if you add all of that up, it's almost 80,000 touches over the last 12 months that the Friends, that the Glendora Public Library Friends Foundation has been responsible for partnering with us on. And it really is a remarkable indication of the breadth of and depth of opportunities that are available to the public because of them. So in their honor, getting away from the numbers for a moment, we know that it's not all numbers; it's stories, as their own language tells us. So we put together a little video of thanks. And I understand we have it to play, although I'm not sure we're going to have sound, but at least we can see the images tonight. So this is a thank you to all of your team, Maggie, over the years. Thank you. This is 12 months worth of stories. Once again, thank you so much to all there. The foundation, I think, has 1,000 stories of its own. They aren't just the library stories. And thank you to all the thousands of foundation folks who have made this affiliation so rich and really in terms of the opportunities they've offered to the city of Glendora through library services. So cheers to you and happy National Friends of Libraries Week. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Stone. The next topic is the strategic framework review and strategic responses for September 2023. I would like to invite Director Stone to present.
Thank you once again. So every few months, as we collected together some more data about the ways we are implementing or supporting our strategic framework, more specifically, we're supporting the community as guided by our strategic framework. We come to you and just talk about some of our wins for the last few months. So these are things that we consider wins just since July. Just a quick update for you. First of all, if you could have the next slide, please, and the next slide, please. First of all, this element of our strategic framework is what we call proximity services, fancy word that basically just reminds us that that we need to bring the world of ideas geographically closer to our human being users. And in light of that, next slide, please. Here's some of the things we've done since July of 2023. We connect community members with new information, new ideas. They're customized, they're organized, and they're expertly presented. And this slide talks about the ways we do that out in the community. It's not just stuff that we do inside our brick and mortar building. And if you add all of this up, these are just since July, over 1,000 times we've touched the community, being out where the community lives and plays and works. And we've everything from National Night Out to the After Stroke Support Group. Next slide, please. So another big thing about making our services nearby is, of course, that very brick and mortar building, because it is our gathering space, it is our showroom, it is our laboratory, and we are ongoing in our efforts to make it safe, make it habitable, make it welcoming. One of the things I wanted to point out on this list this time is that we are still working to install and deploy it, but we are anticipating our new public copying device able to accept Apple Pay and credit cards, which for us is actually a leap forward. So stay tuned. Small things, but can make a big difference to the users that depend on those services. Next slide, please. And a little bit more in terms of our brick and mortar environment and making sure, like I said, that it's safe and clean place for the community to gather around the world of ideas, and also a headquarters for the staff that then also makes our global 24/7 online environment possible, and from which they deploy into those community opportunities that we just talked about a moment ago. So the building does a lot of those things. On this list, the thing I wanted to point out is that we are still improving the HVAC system, our environmental controls. And I'm really just grateful to the city of Glendora. Even though we're assessing the building and its structure, they are committed to making sure that in the meantime, until the long-term plans are established, that we are investing still in making sure that it is currently habitable and comfortable. So thank you to them for that, and also to our staff for all they do to help coordinate. So here's another one of our strategic framework components. This is our human development component. Basically, in order to be able to interact with the world of ideas, there are all sorts of skills you have to learn, and so you need to participate in all stages of life, and you never really stop learning all those different kinds of literacies. So next slide, please. In terms of making library services and the world of ideas a lifelong thing, here's some of, again, our wins just since July. This is a lot of what we do. It gets packaged under nice names, and it's easy to talk about in broad strokes like brochure language. But I always like to stop and really point out that what a lot of these programs do is they maintain and they improve reading skills. They help celebrate recreational reading. They build confidence in reading and in and content knowledge. There are a lot of functional things that are happening in these programs that we label and sort of sell with such great language. So behind a summer discovery challenge and things like the In and Out reading program, there are really concrete things happening. Again, if you add up everything on this slide, between the summer discovery challenge different sites, there were over 2,300 participants. And I also want to point out that happened at 8 different locations. It was not, I mean, that doesn't even include people's homes and the parks and wherever people were reading, but actual organized summer discovery challenge locations. There were 8 of them in town, not just our own brick and mortar library building. Next slide, please. Again, there are lots of things that are happening in some of these programs that have a lot of brand recognition. They develop leadership, team building, and public speaking skills. Here's some examples on this slide of those. I wanted to point out that Homework Buddies, which is literally a chance for children to come and get help completing their homework. It doesn't get completed for them, helps them learn how to do it. And it's a live program, has just began again at the beginning of the month. And it's a great complement to our 24/7 online service, which is also homework help and also actually also serves as a true sort of subject tutoring platform. But sometimes there's nothing that can replace a face-to-face experience. And we do have that with our Homework Buddies program. Next slide, please. Okay, so we know we need to bring the world of ideas nearby. We know we need to teach the skills. We also know that every body that learns those skills is different, and every neurology is different, and we need to be able to support diverse communities in both ways. Next slide, please. So some of the ways we have been doing that since July include, I'm just going to highlight this one particularly. You may have seen in the department report that we have found with the Friends Foundation new ways to offer new lives to books that are pulled from the library's collections and also that come in as donations. And as we looked into that whole process, one of our staff suggested that our large type materials, which were no longer getting used on our shelves and were making it hard to find the materials that were relevant to the public, just because they weren't being used on our shelves didn't mean there weren't other homes for them. And so we actually were able to offer those to 3 of our local senior living facilities, those large type books that are especially wonderful for people who are experiencing vision difficulties. So again, always trying to find ways to support different neurologies and physiologies. Next slide, please. Okay, so on the data side, so we've been talking about the humans and their interaction with the world of ideas. Now on the side of the ideas themselves, they do decay. The media that they are stored in do decay. And so one of our responsibilities is to ensure that there's continuing access to the ideas, regardless of how they are stored. Next slide, please. So you've heard a lot about this. One of the things that we have unleashed since July of 2023 is our first phase of our new community historical archive. And this phase includes Glendora newspapers prior to 1928 and the entire run of the Glendora magazine. We are very grateful to them for that. And there is more to come. So this is a great resource for doing local research. Those are not only visible, the actual images of those resources are not visible, but they're also searchable, which they were not before. So next slide, please. Not only do ideas decay, but they also they proliferate and they grow chaotically. And next slide, please. One of our tasks is to help keep them organized. Since July of 2023, one of the things we have been working on is investigating ways to process the physical inventory of the library. So basically, there, pretty traditional things that, we put labels on all the books, for example, with, good old fashioned Dewey Decimal numbers on them or authors' names. That's all about the way we organize the materials so that they're findable. And we are looking at whether there are services that do that well enough prior to shipping the books to us that we might be able to free up our staff time to work on things that are Glendora specific rather than spending time necessarily putting labels on books when we can manage that process and still organize those materials, but not be actually putting the labor in, and instead, like I said, use that staff time to work on programs and ideas and services that are much more specific to our own community. Next slide, please. We'll be reporting back on that as we learn more about the possibilities of those services that do that for the books off-site. Okay. Another thing about the world of ideas is that it's subject to influence. There's there are different accountabilities for accuracy, different ways ideas and information are perceived, and as I mentioned, influenced. And so, although we try not to be weigh in judgmentally and that kind of thing, we do try to give people the tools to understand the context in which they're finding those ideas and how to interpret them. So next slide, please. We've done a couple of things about this. The staff has done some training on how to critically evaluate online sources. And the idea then is that they will turn around and provide similar training to the public so that we can enrich skills there. And then also, as usual, our expert speakers series has had some content that speaks to this. This particular one that we're highlighting here was a conversation in which the author, and I'm going to quote from the website for our consortium that provides these sorts of, dispelled the entrenched notions of how to compete and win at the college admissions game, and revealed why families have much to gain by broadening their notion of what qualifies as a quote unquote good college. So there are lots of kinds of information out there where we are in the business of trying to give people a broader perspective, give them better tools, do a little bit myth busting and debunking, so that they can really get a clear picture of the world around them. Next slide, please. Another thing about the world of ideas is that they are, considered property, and that means that they can be bought and sold, they can be stolen, they can be protected, they can be made available, they can be donated. There's all that sort of thing. And although we cannot control all of that, and we want to make sure that people are aware, and that when it's necessary to protect the ownership of data, and when it's necessary to open it up and make it available, that we're involved in both of those processes. Next slide, please. So Banned Books Week was earlier this month. And as part of that, library visitors celebrated their freedom to read. And basically the idea behind that is how public libraries ensure access to the widest diversity of views and expressions. It has to do with reading, but it could be listening, it could be discussions, it could be events, it could be anything. The idea is that we provide this breadth of view. And so we had what we called a World of Viewpoints activity for people that came into the library during Banned Books Week. Next slide, please. And finally, this evening, for this part of our strategic framework, we also recognize that it takes material and energy to sustain and deliver the world of ideas, and we just need to be conscientious about understanding what our impact is on that world. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned in our department report, and I alluded to earlier, we have been working hard with the Friends Foundation to find some new ways for materials that the library cannot use and that the public cannot use to find new homes. And the Friends Foundation is able to use some of that in their bookstore, and they have recently partnered with an organization called Discover Books, which offers an online bookstore of its own. And so materials that make their way out of our collections or out of the collections of our customers can find their ways to one of those places and find new readers. Next slide, please. And then we always tag on this idea of administration. It itself is not necessarily one of our public responsibilities, but there are a lot of tasks that either touch every single responsibility or basically clear the way for them. So I always like to give a nod to this as well. Next slide, please. And in this case, as Maggie mentioned before, we just want to acknowledge that our formal affiliation with the GPO Friends Foundation this year has resulted in their approval of almost $171,000 in grant support. Next slide, please. Also, our staff basically touches, of course, every single responsibility, and none of what we do would be possible without our expert staff. But because they touch every responsibility, we put them here in our administrative category. And I'm happy to say that just since July, we actually have filled 3 full-time positions that are listed here, either through outside candidates or through internal candidates. And we're really, really happy to have that full-time complement be enriched that way. Next slide, please. We also are continuing our classification study, which helps us describe those expert jobs. And we have a full complement of draft job specs that have been delivered to the city, and we are in the process of compiling our feedback, which we will provide then to the consultant in a week or two, and we'll be continuing with that process. Also, we are continuing our own staff training on a variety of topics, including some safety topics. Next slide, please. This is a nice one to end on because, of course, the Board of Library Trustees was instrumental in reducing these barriers by eliminating our overdue fines, which were discontinued effective on July 1st. And I wanted to, as a close to this part of the evening, read to you part of an email that was sent to me from our part-time library aide 3, Jeff Snap. He had helped this family, and I want to it's an apologetic family that came in, a family of 3, and their expressions, as Jeff put it, were, and here I'm quoting, foreshadowing conversations about lost or overdue items. He said their moods changed immediately upon learning that the library was no longer charging late fees. Instead of personal finance, we were able to talk about the library's mission, about books, and how the girls had been caught up in that quote unquote late books series, and how much the elder sister and her mom loved libraries, and then turning the conversation into teen involvement and volunteering possibilities instead of repayment schedules. So it was a beautiful write-up from him, but also just I'm sure that is not the only story like that, where that relief of even if it's small, that just either from fiscal pressure or simple embarrassment goes away, and it changes the whole conversation. So thank you to Jeff and to that family and to all the families that have come in and embraced this change. And thank you to you for helping make it happen. That's, I believe, if we go to the next slide, yes, that concludes our few months of updates on how we're responding to this community through our strategic framework. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions? I would just like to make a couple comments. All right. I love the freedom to read idea, that just matching the quotes to controversial classics, that's beyond clever. So that was cool. I really like that. I possibly may copy that in my classroom. So thank you. And the Battle of the Books, that was fun. And apparently you could still check it out on YouTube. So it's still available. You just type in Glendora Public Library Battle of the Books 2023, and it will pop up in case you missed it and you want to check it out and you want somebody wants to compete in it the next time it comes around. So
Thank you.
okay. The next item is the consent calendar. So items on the consent calendar will be enacted by one motion without individual discussion unless a board member has requested it to be removed for separate discussion. Does anyone wish to pull or comment on any consent calendar items? Like, anybody like to make a motion to approve?
I have a motion made by Trustee Flowers. I'm waiting for a second. And I have a second from President Landman. Okay, I will now conduct oral roll call. Trustee Flowers,
Aye.
Trustee Lowland,
Aye.
Vice President Johnson,
Aye.
President Landman.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0.
And then we have new business review of library administrative policy 3.04, computer laptop or tablet lending. Let's see, Director Stone will present.
Thank you. Okay, next slide, please. And next slide, please. Okay, so just a little bit of background. It's been a little while since we brought a policy to you, some months. So just to reminder that that the library board of library trustees has sort of general policy and operational oversight of the library, and that part of its role is to systematically review policies. This particular one was most recently reviewed on November 19th of 2018. And I just want to assure you, just as a side note, that on the scale of municipal policies in general, that's actually still pretty recent and you're doing great. So anyway, next slide, please. Okay, so the proposal that's before you this evening addresses a few different things that I wanted to share with you. First of all, since the policy came to you last, we have changed our service model. We no longer have a copy center, so we just needed to address that in the policy. We still obviously have service points at the regular desk. It's just no separate window anymore as a copy center window. Also, when I talk about the needed flexibility regarding device availability, for example, right now we have iPads available for internal use, but not laptops. So we just need to be able to address that kind of thing flexibly. We wanted to align the time limits among the computer services, so to make the laptop and device tablet loan inside the library more comparable with the desktop computers. Obviously, there had been some language in there about overdue fees, but we're not charging those anymore. Next slide, please. Also, we wanted to acknowledge that that these devices are part of the networked world, and so we needed to standardize sort of their acceptable use with the other library computer services that have some use of internet language and that kind of thing that people are held to. So we needed to make sure that that was clear for these devices as well. Since the last time, some of the ways people store data have changed, so we wanted to broaden that, to not just talk about like hard drives and external drives and that sort of thing, and allow for greater flexibility. And finally, more flexibility as well. If indeed something does not get returned to us or something else happens, it's not necessarily just the city attorney that we would be referring to. It's possible we would want to consult, for example, with law enforcement. And so we broadened that language as well. Other than that, there are no major changes to the policy, and what those things have been highlighted in yellow in the copy that's in your packets and available to the public. And so our recommendation this evening is that you approve this policy as presented to you tonight. But I am happy to answer any questions.
I just have one question, Janet.
Yes.
Regarding the replacement cost as part of the borrow agreement, the $975. If we have someone who's unable to pay that, is there a contingency? Is there a fund? Is there any other type of remedy for that person if it was destroyed by accident? If a tablet or a laptop was destroyed by accident?
We would handle that on a case-by-case basis, as we do with any library materials. So it's not necessarily written into the policy, but we talk with customers individually about that sort of thing all the time. I'm not required, but does anybody have any other comments they would like to add to that? Okay, that describes it. So yes, though we do not outline specifically what those are, because it is particular to the whatever material there might be a question about.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. Okay. So this is the Library Services Manager, Cindy Romero.
So one other piece that may help answer that question, currently the devices are for in-house use only, so they don't leave the library. So we're not gonna end up with a lost item, I would hope, in the library. So it would just be accidental damage, in which case, like Janet said, we would just work with case by case with what happened.
I was curious. I had noticed it was, in-house use only. When I worked at the Cal Poly Library, we had like tattle tape. I don't know if you guys use that, but it would set off the little sensors. Has there ever been anybody like desperately trying to sneak it out or anything? Okay, so it has not taken place. So, okay, just curious.
we've had them for some time now. I couldn't even remember, decade.
The iPads within the.
iPads, right? So, yeah, but yeah, between the kinds of devices, it's been a long time. And I think I can remember once when somebody walked off with one by accident, like put it in their backpack, and it was pretty clear from the interaction that they did not intend to try to leave with it. Let's just say it was pretty clear. So, and that's been once in, like I said, in like a decade. So thank you to the public for being good about that.
Thank you. Anybody else have a comment or question? Okay. Let's see, so would anybody like to make a motion?
So I have a motion made by trustee Tolan and seconded by trustee Flowers. I will now conduct an oral roll call. Trustee Flowers?
Aye.
Trustee Tolan?
Aye.
Vice President Johnson?
Aye.
President Landman?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, so for board or staff closing comments, do any trustees or staff have any questions or closing comments this evening? Okay, right. Well, I would like to adjourn the meeting at 8:54 p.m.